You and I have never been exposed to this much information. And in the age of the internet, it can be nearly impossible to decipher what information is worth keeping and absorbing and what information is simply worth discarding. But what if I told you that this is what we love the most? And in fact, this plays perfectly to our psychology, because if there's one thing you and I do really, really well, it's that we struggle to separate noise from signal. And you've seen this online. You've scrolled through TikTok. You've watched Instagram Reels. You've flipped through your YouTube feed. You've seen these creators. You've listened to their messages. These so-called experts who know the one true path to wealth, to prosperity, to happiness, to love, and to divine bliss. They have the roadmap to heaven. And if you refuse them, well, the gates will be shut for you. And, well, the gates to hell will be wide open, and you will be invited in with open arms because you denied the one truth. See, you may hate this. You may consciously and verbally express how much you despise these creators. I know I do it. But on the other hand, you and I secretly love this because, well, we're human beings. And if there's one thing we hate, it's swimming in the pool of gray. We don't want to dive into uncertainty. We don't want to play with ideas. We don't want to hold two contradictory opinions at once and weigh which one seems more true or whether they're both true, equally so, in fact. You and I hate this because it hurts us. It doesn't allow us to act in this world functionally. It prevents us from making decisions. It prevents us from taking action. Think about it. If you didn't have a religion to lead your army, would you even have an army at all? Would anybody fight for the safety of your village or your town or your city-state if you didn't have the promise of divine prosperity, either through dying on the battlefield or, well, through winning, conquering your enemies, taking the neighboring town, plundering them, and all of the other excessive behaviors that the Bible and many other texts have portrayed quite vividly if you've read them before. I know I have, and they, do not get discussed enough. But the point here is that people will try to tell you what the truth is, and you may think that I am that person. I'm just another person in front of a camera, right? I bleed, I will die just like you, and who am I? What do I know? Fair enough. If you've made it this far, well, congratulations, you didn't click off. Most people do within a couple minutes. And, well, since I'm starting to ramble a little bit, you might be considering clicking off now because I'm probably talking your ear off. But there is a point I want to make here, and that point is very simple. It's that the reason why we love to debate these ideas, what God is the true God, what economic formula or school is the best, what way to invest is going to give you the most wealth, what way to approach a girl or a guy is going to find you the perfect partner, is because, well, it's all a battle of ego. It's not actually about finding the objective answer, if there even is one. No, it's about flexing your ego muscle. You want to show that off to other people. You want to be right, and you want to prove them wrong. Because your ego needs fed. It's a hungry beast. And without the proper platter, without the proper portions, it starts to get a little antsy. It starts to go a little crazy. It starts to bang against the wall, smash its head against the concrete. It doesn't like to be ignored. And if you ignore it too long, well, eventually it might just break out of that cage that you've put it in. The cage that you built because society doesn't like your ego. Society hates it, but we built society. Do you see the interplay here? Perhaps you do. Maybe not. Let's continue with this idea, though. We want to flex our ego in these conversations, these arguments. They're not really debates, just arguments based on faith, based on hope for what we hope is true, not what we know is true. And we love to flex our ego muscle because we like to put other people down. Now, where does this tie into signal and noise? Well, let's imagine that this whole life is a tree, the tree of life. What a symbol. Not like that hasn't been used in basically every text, religious code that was ever written. Funny how this all connects. But let's go to the tree of life. The tree of life is a big, thick tree. It's at the pivotal axis of the world, and on this tree there are an infinite number of branches with many, 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 many leaves. Now, what species sits in trees? Well, there's a few. But what species are we typically thought to have descended from? Apes. Apes sit in trees, don't they? They rest in trees, they climb through the trees, and they also sling mud in the trees. They sling shit through the trees. This is what people are doing when they're having these arguments, when they're fighting each other verbally, trying to win, trying to prove to the other side what the objective truth is. They're mudslinging in the trees. But what they've forgotten is that the answer is right below them. The answer is on the ground. And isn't it funny that human beings, well, they used to sit in the trees. They used to sleep in the trees. But then they came down to the ground. You and I came down to the ground. We started walking on 2 feet. And we started to dominate our environment. And yet we didn't look at the one thing we needed to. The root of the tree. The base of the tree. The trunk. The trunk of the tree of life. The answer. Right in front of our eyes. We climbed down the tree and then we just forgot about the tree. I mean, some of us didn't climb down the tree. You can see them mudslinging already. You can see the mudslinging every single day when you go online. They're still up there. Some people just haven't quite come down. Some people came down for the tree and then they decided to climb back up because they didn't like it on planet Earth. They didn't like it down here on the ground. But we forgot about the answer. The answer is right below your feet. It's at ground level. But if you get caught up in these debates, if you get caught up in discussing the details, the tiny little details about the story, was he this or was he that? Was he half God, half man, or was he God or not God? Or if you get caught up in these details, you're going to miss the signal. You're going to miss the actual truth, which is right below your feet. Now, do I know what that is? Absolutely fucking not. But I think I'm getting pretty close. The reason why I'm getting pretty close, I believe, is because, well, I've stopped caring about it. I've stopped worrying about the noise. I've tuned it out. Because quite frankly, I don't give a shit. People can have their arguments, or debates as they call them, because, well, to call it an argument would be uncivilized. They can have them all they want. I find them quite entertaining, in fact. I would much rather live. And I would much rather walk around the earth, and I would much rather inspect the trunk of the tree, and I would much rather dig at the roots, or perhaps even cut the tree open to see what the trunk is telling me, and then figure out what the truth is from there. See what is actually going on around me. Because usually if you just use your fucking eyes, you'll see what is true and you'll decipher what is false. Unless, of course, your eyes have been glazed over by, well, the noise that you and I love so dearly. So with that being said, if you gain value out of this, subscribe to the channel and have a blessed day. This is Nathaniel Knockel. I'll see you in the next one.